I'm Michael. I was born in Queens to a huge Italian family, and I started working as an actor pretty young, so I was very lucky to do that.
My name is Tony, and I did grow up outside of D.C. in Maryland, and like Michael, I was bitten by the theater bug really early.
We were in West Palm Beach in the dead of winter doing a Rodgers and Hart review.
That's where we met.
We met living there. But we were working. It was a professional environment, and we just kind of let it go. You know, the spark remained, and off we went. 2 different jobs, 2 different cities. And when I would go home at night and, be at the end of the day, I found myself thinking about him.
I think what was there was a genuine feeling for me that was new. And as with love, sometimes it surprises us. And I thought, something is going on here. But what happened is we left these jobs, and immediately I wrote to him. And I decided to write a postcard. And I want to say maybe a day after I sent my postcard, I received in the mail from Michael a postcard. And I laughed, of course. I thought, oh, how funny. The postcard started because we were both traveling. So that, I think, locked in the medium in which we were going to communicate. But once we got these postcards going back and forth, then it became like a fun activity. And I would think, oh, what happened in my day? And I would find a postcard, or I would be on the road and I'd find a card store and just think, oh, this would make Michael laugh.
So we're talking about probably 300 postcards over the course of 4 months.
Without getting too far ahead of myself, he arrived on one of our first meetings after this correspondence concluded and we were actually seeing each other.
Yeah, because we did have our first date. We had some cocktails. We went to another place and had a lovely dinner. I walked him home. End of story. Tony went to another city to do something else. And then a couple of more weeks went by, and then he came back to the city again where I was. We had another dinner. And then I think by then it was like, okay, we're invested. So we decided after almost 2 years to the day of the beginning of the dating portion of our relationship, after the postcards, that we were going to move in together.
Yeah.
So the logical thing was to find a new place, common ground, start fresh. And because at the time real estate in New York was absurd, as well, it's always absurd, we had to look upriver, as it were. And we had a couple of friends who lived in the Washington Heights area. And we looked at a lot of apartments, and we finally found one that was right on the river. So we move in, and we gave each other housewarming gifts without ever really discussing it. And the housewarming gifts were both in little Tiffany boxes. The exact same size box that said Tiffany and Company with that white ribbon tied around it. And I opened my box, and I'm staring at the key ring that I bought for Tony for our opening, for our sort of, housewarming gift. And there's the ring, and I had made an amalgam of our last names that he had engraved on the little medallion that comes with it that's stamped Tiffany and Company on one side, and Tony had engraved it with our combined last names. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm looking over at him, and he's opening his box, and of course he's seeing the same ring that he chose for me.
I think it was right after the movers left that we gave each other those.
Right.
And it was a really beautiful day, even though it was July. It was unseasonably cool.
On that first day, as the sun was going down, if you live on the west side of Manhattan, the sunsets are quite beautiful. And because this was a street off the beaten path, it was sort of like a lover's lane. And all these couples quietly gravitated to the street where we lived on and just sort of stood there together and gazed at the sunset.
It was just really quite a nice way to start